Friday to everybody. Happy Easter. I hope everybody can hear me. I was also wondering, does this screen have that thing where you can raise your hand? It doesn't have that.
Yes,
no, it doesn't. That. Okay. All right. Because I don't see it on mine. But anyway, let me just start off. So one of the things that I want to start off by saying that I was wondering if there is anybody in the group who's feeling worried, a little bit trapped inside our homes, a little bit, like, oh God, when can I get out, and stressed out with the whole lockdown. Is there anybody who's feeling that way? If you are, just put your hands up so I can see. People are? Okay, yes, I can see hands going up. So there are a lot of people who are feeling kind of trapped and, just not able to get out and do stuff that we want to do. Now, the thing is that if all of us, I'm presuming most of us who are attending this are people who are neurotypical. And if there are neurotypical people who are living in a neurotypical world, feeling trapped and difficult to deal with things, can you imagine what it must feel like for people with autism who are living in a world that does not really understand them? They are living amongst people who really do not get the kind of people they are. So just to keep in mind that it is, for persons with autism, an extremely difficult period to be in. So they are living through a phase where there is no school, those who go to vocational centers, and I know this says for children, but I'm also going to talk about people who are older. So there's no school, people are not going to their vocational places, some of them go to workplaces, they're not going there. Their mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, everybody's home. Nana, Nani, Dadu, Dida, everybody's sitting at home. There is no going to favorite places. There's no doing favorite things. There's no doing any familiar things. Like, maybe I would walk down every day to the milk booth to get the milk with my mother. I'm not doing that anymore. Everything has changed. My life has changed. So it's very, very difficult for people on the spectrum and for a lot of others in a situation like this. And one of the things that has been happening is that I've been getting a lot of messages and calls from parents saying that, there are sudden outbursts, baat nahi sunta hai, he's just being so difficult, I'm trying so hard, but the obsessions are going up and stuff like that. So when I listen to these parents, I also think of, when I go onto Facebook, I keep reading or seeing rather, I go to Facebook very little actually, but when I do, I keep seeing a lot of posting by families about kids who are cooking and painting and, doing the cleaning of the house and, doing amazing stuff. And sometimes I think to myself, is my child the only one who doesn't do all these things and is so happily and busily occupied? And then I remind myself that when people post on Facebook, it's like going to a shadi or going to a party. That is not the way I'm at home the whole time. When I go to a wedding or a party or someplace, I'm all togged up and dressed up. But when I'm home, I'm not like that, right? So all the postings we see on Facebook, are the kids doing that all the time? No, they're not. In fact, of course, there would be a few kids who are amazingly driven and who keep themselves occupied the whole day and stuff like that. There would be a few. But the vast majority of them are not. And even the ones whose parents are posting amazing videos, some of them have called up and said, I don't know what to do with this person. I don't know what to do with this kid. He's just driving me nuts. So just to keep in mind that everything we see on Facebook is not the reality. That's only the party that we are seeing. We are not seeing what life is really like. So in a situation like this, one of the things that we of course want to do, in a very basic thing, talk about the virus to the child. And I'm sure most of you are doing that already. We are talking about the crisis, about the hand wash that has to be done, about the masks that have to be worn. But in doing all of this, it is very, very important to work on your own anxiety. One of the things that I've found with some of the parents is that they are so anxious, they are feeding that anxiety to their kids. I've had parents say things like, what if my child gets sick? What will happen to him? How will I manage him? What will he do in the hospital? First of all, why will your child get it? If you're following all the rules, if you're staying at home, if you're making sure that everything's coming to your house is kept aside for several hours so that there is no infection over there, why will your child get it? And if we as parents let ourselves get so anxious, so bothered about everything, can you imagine what happens to the kid who's listening to all of the time and seeing the mother and the father and everybody else going, oh, what's going to happen? Something might happen to my child. So work on your own anxiety. Be informed on what we should be doing, be informed on how long the lockdown will carry on, but seriously, don't stay on social media too much. The other thing is that there is so much of negative, anti-people, pretty hateful stuff out there on social media. Whether you support it or you don't support it, that will infect you a lot more than the coronavirus will. So it's a good thing to just stay off social media, except for getting what information you want. And the bottom line being, don't overload yourself on information and don't overload your child with information. Because there are some families that are constantly giving the children more and more information on the virus. Okay, it's done. We know what's to be done. And let's just hang on. Don't give the child so much of information that the child is stressed out of their mind. And remember, the kid with autism may be very stressed. And you think, but he's not, he's smiling. But very often our kids, the expression they show is not in sync with the emotion they're experiencing. And that is very important to keep in mind. So please let us not overload our kids with information. Let's not overload ourselves. Let's not overload our kids. And let us not get overly anxious about everything that is happening. Of course, you can do things like, put up posters in the house. Instead of constantly having to remind the child how to wash hands or to cough and cover your mouth and stuff like that, make a little strip of the steps in washing hands, stick it over the sink. Do simple visuals for the child to be able to follow. Write social stories if you want. Have one social story that you can read to the child. If you want it to be on washing hands, be that on washing hands. If you want it to be about when it is going to end. I know that some parents have made calendars. They mark the day when the thing is going to end, the lockdown. But the lockdown may not end that day. But because they're using a calendar, they can cross out that day and mark the new day and make it so much easier for the children to adjust to the change that is going to happen. Okay, so before going to that, okay, so what else? In addition to all of this, what else can we do? When there is a situation like this, when everything is kind of topsy-turvy, a life has changed completely, try to provide a safe haven in this confusion. Make the home a place where the child feels completely comfortable and make life as predictable as you possibly can. Because there is already, kids with autism, whether they show it or not, they all have very, very high levels of anxiety. The thing that happens is some of us tend to be, just like all of us who don't have autism, some of us are people who are very hyper, some of us are very naturally calm, and in between. So people with autism are also like that. But just because somebody is a person who kind of has an innately calm exterior does not mean that that person does not have anxiety. When you have autism, anxiety is a part of what you live with. And that is something we just have to accept. If you want to help them deal with not just what is happening now, but in general. So one of the things that we want to do is make things as predictable as possible and have a plan for the day. And not just have a plan for the day, because I was speaking to a father the other day and he said, oh, I have a plan. He knows what is to be done. I tell him every day. And that's a parent who's having a lot of difficulty. And I said, telling him and knowing that he's an intelligent boy, therefore assuming that he will get it, does not help. You have to make it visual. Write down what are the things that will happen through the day, whatever it is, even if you're doing nothing else with your child. There will be a wake up time, there will be breakfast, there will be bath, there will be lunch, there will be tea, there will be dinner, there will be bedtime, right? So you already have some things. Fill up in between those with whether there is TV time or playing with mama or doing some academic work or making a project, but have it visual, make it a visual time. The other thing that you want to do is that I wanted to, yes. So what I wanted to also say is that, of course, there are all kinds of things that you can put in the schedule. There are parents who started meditation. You can do exercises together. You can play games together, all kinds of stuff. And there is amazing stuff on the internet that I have discovered that friends have been sharing. And many of you will know. One, of course, is just like we are having a Zoom call. Have a Zoom sing-along with your kids and other kids. Do Tambola, have an online meet. Get the kid to meet other families and friends. And I'm sure some of you are already doing that. If you don't have Zoom, do it through a WhatsApp video. Say hello to your family who you're not able to meet. So, and those are things that can go into the day's schedule of what the child does. And, there's amazing stuff like the Google AR augmented reality, which is totally amazing. I'm sure a lot of you know about it. If you don't, please remind me at the end and I'll talk about it. I'm going to try and finish before 1 hour so we have lots of time for questions. And then, of course, this is a great time, in addition to all of this, to introduce new routines. And I'm wondering how many of us who are participating here, let me just step out of this share for a minute and ask, how many of us here have a good bedtime routine for your child? Do all of you have, those who are parents, I'm presuming many of us are parents, do you all have a proper, well-structured bedtime routine for your child? Just put your hands up so I get a sense. How many of you have your hands up? Interesting, I see very few hands up. Very, very few hands up. And that's so interesting. Having a good bedtime routine is truly, truly amazing. Is there something in the chat that I should look at? Okay, no. All right. So having a good bedtime routine is truly amazing because what it does, it gives your child a sense of a closing to the day. And many of our kids, see, in many of our families, there is no proper bedtime. There is no thing about when I go to sleep, how I go to sleep. Simple things like changing into a particular set of clothes when I go to sleep. So that tells me, oh, I'm wearing these clothes, it's time to sleep. Or having that routine so I know, oh, I'm having a shower, that means after this I'll have dinner and probably go to bed. So having a bedtime routine where you have the child take a shower, have the dinner, put the child in bed, and even if the child doesn't stay in bed, ensure they stay in the room, maybe read them a story or something at that time. This is a great time to start a bedtime routine. Believe me, it'll make your lives that much easier. We have adults that parents are struggling with because they don't have a simple routine like this in their lives. So have a bedtime routine as far as possible you can. And I think it's possible for most of us to do that. Right? So, what is this? Sorry, my screen is not moving. Just give me a minute. Okay, yeah. And of course, some of us are doing academics. So there are a lot of, again, scholastic and academic oriented screens, websites that you all can find. In this day of internet connectivity, there is no shortage of all of this. Though I do understand not everybody will have access to the internet the same way. One other thing before I go to the next slide is that don't forget that when you're doing trying to give a structure to the day, don't forget simple things like timers. There are multiple kinds of timers that you get, and it is an amazing thing to use. So if you have a child who's gone onto the screen, because one of the things that is happening, at least I'm speaking from what I've been about experiences that parents are sharing, the temptation to let the child get up whenever he wants, have as many snacks as he wants, have a lot of screen time, sit in front of the TV, sit with the mobile, is very, very tempting for most parents. And from those who've been speaking to me, I see that that is happening a lot. Of course, it's not happening with everybody, but that is not a very good thing to do. So like I said, have a structured day. That itself will bring down a lot of the challenges that you're facing with your child. And in your day, don't forget to use a timer. So if you have a child who you've put in, say, screen time, somewhere time in the day, and you say that it is really difficult to get him off the screen, then you tell him that, oops, you will get screen time is for 15 minutes. So you put it on 15 minutes, this will keep moving. And after 15 minutes, not only will he be able to see this movie, he'll also hear this ring. And believe me, after the first few times, when it rings, you take the screen away, your child will get used to it. He will hear the sound. And even if he's looking at you thinking, if I can keep the screen for a bit more, he will move towards keeping it away because this has become a part of his routine. That when this rings, I finish whatever my mother has said I finish, right? And that can be used for a whole lot of things. It can be used for giving the child private time in the room. It can be used for a child who's dawdling over food or who's playing with toys that or bath time, a very long bath time which you want to end at a particular time. So timer is an amazing thing to use. All right, so in addition to this, let me get back to my screen again. No, sorry. One second. I don't know what I've gone to, sorry. Share screen, all right. I'm pretty good at this, I'm trying. So the next one is, all right, so some of the things that I've been hearing from parents is that, my child is completely out of control. There are all these sudden outbursts. I'm just giving a few examples of families who've been calling me up. He's become very aggressive sitting at home. He does a lot of work. He helps me in the house a lot, but he's really become very aggressive. He's hitting a lot. He's very, very moody. For all of this, the first thing, of course, is First thing is have a structure to the day. Okay, I'm going to just go back to the structure one more time, which I forgot. I'm sorry, I'll keep forgetting because I'm not very good at the Zoom thing. So I want to show you. So when I'm saying structure, I showed you an example there. So here's an example of a structure. This is a late evening structure. So, the person knows I have music or TV, then I have dinner, then I brush my teeth, then I wash my face and I go to bed, right? Now, before this, he's already had his bath and all that. So you don't have to give the full days together. You can give the full days together. You can give part of the day together. You can give it in a little book where you have things in earlier pages, the stuff that are there, and then you move the page and there is more stuff. You can do it with Velcro if you want. But believe me, I know that a lot of parents are going crazy trying to get Velcro for themselves. You don't have to use Velcro. I often do things like this. I'll tell you what I use. So this thing that is here, all I have is a piece of card and a cutter, and I cut out little slots and I put gem clips there. And all you have to do is teach your child to pull it out when it is done. And some children don't even want to pull it out. They just want it to be there to look at it. So you don't have to get into getting major Velcro and stuff like that. You can use simple stuff around the house to make a schedule. Okay, let me move on from here. Let me share again. Okay, so okay, so when all of this is happening, what are some of the things that we do? One is, of course, give a very, very structured day that takes care of 90% of everything that has been happening. What is the next thing? I want to introspect on what else there is in the environment. What is the environment doing to the child, right? That is the next thing that I want to focus on. So I want to, if my child is getting distressed or is hitting, or like some parents said, is aggressive, I want to stop and I want to ask myself, what have I said? What have I done? See, because the first reaction is this kid is misbehaving. This kid needs to be changed. This kid is out of control. But we don't stop to think, what about me? And what about the environment around the child? So what have I done? What are the words that I have used, right? What was my tone of voice? Was the environment that I was giving my child clear? So did I say that we will have chicken this Friday, okay? Or today I say, on Wednesday I had said, we'll have chicken on Friday. And then I forgot. And somebody said, let's have dosas instead. And I didn't make the chicken. And I might be thinking, but my child loves dosas, so why should he mind? But I had said chicken. And he's confused. What happened to the chicken and why is the dosa here? And believe me, that can lead to behaviors because it's leading to anxiety. Behaviors are really an expression of anxiety, confusion, of being made to do things that doesn't make sense to them, right? Of communication that is not clear. Did I say, I will be repotting my plants on this day? And I did not repot. And my child is wondering, why is the repotting not happening, right? So what are the things that I have said? Did I say that we will listen to music together? And then did I forget? Did I say, why can't you sit still? What are the words that I used? Did I tell the child, honey, please sit still? Or did I say, why can't you sit still, right? What were the words that I used? What was my tone of voice, right? Did I say, will you stop making that noise? Or did I say, honey, can you just be a little quiet? Did I tell the child what to do rather than focusing on what I don't want him to do? Was my tone of voice critical, negative? And these are things that we very often do without thinking because we feel that as parents we have a right to do that. But what if somebody spoke to me in that tone all the time? Mary, thinking properly. Oh, Mary, what is this thing that you've made? It doesn't even look good. If people spoke to me like that, versus saying that, next time, if you could put a little bit more salt in what you've cooked, it would make a world of difference. So when the child is having a behavior that I see as aggression, that I see as disobedience, that I see as acting out, I want to stop and think, what was it that I did? And this is true for a teacher as well. I'm not speaking as a parent, I'm speaking as anybody in the environment. What is it that I said? What is it that I did? Were the words I used clear? Did I say, please go and keep these there? So the child went and kept it there. But the there that the child kept it was not the there that I had meant. How is the child to know what the there was? So was my communication clear, right? So these are the things we need to think of before jumping in and thinking, this is a disobedient, contrary, difficult child. Okay, I'm going to make a note. Okay, all right. And then I have to also stop and think that what is it that the child is wanting? Because remember, something that everybody will keep telling you, whether it is a book or whether it is a special educator or any other therapist, that every behavior is a communication. Now, when I say every behavior is a communication, then I have to stop and ask, if this was a communication, then what is it that the child was wanting? What was the child wanting? Was the child wanting my attention, perhaps? Was the child wanting a snack? And I was just speaking to somebody the other day, and he shared this example of this young boy who keeps telling women that he wants to interact with them, he wants to be with them and stuff like that, right? And the presumption has been that he is making a sexual overtone. But the reality of that young man's conversation of saying that I want to talk to you, I want to be with you, is simply wanting a little bit of attention from that person. Now, when he's wanting attention, and when he's saying this to this girl, and he was saying it over, what's it called? WhatsApp video. When he's saying this to the person over WhatsApp, and the person says, no, if you say those things, I'm not going to talk to you. Do you think it'll help when he's actually wanting her attention and she's saying, if you do this, I won't talk to you? How does that help? He wants her attention and she's saying, no, I will not give it to you. What instead? I reminded myself that when this boy does this, it is simply his way of wanting to communicate and want my attention, wanting to communicate that he wants my attention. Why don't I just give him the attention before he uses these words? So the minute I see him on Zoom, I say, hey, or rather on WhatsApp video, I say, hey, great to see you. So what have you been doing? Let this get over, I'll come and visit you. Why don't I start off with that? If that is what the young man is doing for attention, and we are in a regular environment where we are not physically distanced, before that young man starts off by saying, I want to talk to you, I want to be with you, I love you, and all that kind of stuff, I just say, hey, great to see you, how have you been? Let's shake hands. So that I give him the attention even before he asks me for it. So we keep saying that every behavior is a mode of communication, but in practice, we often forget about it, right? What if the young man is doing whatever he's doing to get a snack, right? So he starts, and this happened with, well, it happened with somebody, never mind, I won't go into the details. So somebody wants a snack and is beginning to bang things and stuff like that. And whenever the individual does that, he's given a snack because people feel that, okay, you know, let's just stop this thing and get him to kind of, you know, let's just get him to stop and let's give him the snack so that he stops doing this. What am I actually teaching him? What have I taught the young man? That whenever I want a snack, I bang a few things. I'm actually teaching him a mode of communication that is completely counterproductive. Instead, A, I could put snack time on the schedule that I've already talked about. B, I could say if he's already had his snack and he's wanting more, instead of saying, giving it to him or saying, no, I will not give you any more, you've had enough, I could say, you know what, I know you want more snack, but let's do something, let's have some more at tea time. The minute we take away the negative, and the minute we take away the no, I will not give it to you now, you will see that the kid will, in most instances, stop making a big deal about it. All you have to do is that, I know you want the snack, you will get it at tea time. So it starts with a very positive and gives them a specific time, or you will have it tomorrow. Or you want the snack, let us put it down in the calendar when the days that you get it. If it is something we don't want him to have too much, we can even put it into the calendar on the days that he can have it. But to remember that there is always a want, and what am I doing about that want? If I know that every behavior is a communication, what am I doing about that communication? How am I addressing that effort to communicate? Am I teaching the child something positive? Am I teaching the child something that helps the child move forward? Or am I adding to his anxiety by saying, no, you can't do this, or you will not get that, you've been a bad boy, you've already had it, you can't have any more. So it's very, very important. And sometimes the child is trying to get away from something, right? When the child has a behavior, he either wants something or he's trying to get away from something. And very often you hear things like, and many of us are doing academics at home. I know that a lot of the parents are talking about doing the schoolwork every day that the school is sending over. And if the child has a meltdown when you bring that out, obviously the child is trying to get away from it, right? But why is the child getting away from it? And I have to stop and think, what is the child communicating by his meltdown? Is the child trying to tell me that what you're giving me is too hard for me to do? Or is the child trying to say, what you're giving me is too easy and I hate doing this anymore? Or is the child trying to say, you have given me the same task for the past 3 months and I'm sick and tired of doing it? Or is the child trying to say, you've given me a jigsaw puzzle, but I can see that one of the pieces is missing? And you'll be amazed how many times we miss things like this. There is a piece missing, and we take it for granted the child is having a meltdown. But we don't stop to see, is there something about what I'm doing with him? Oh, there is actually a piece missing, which is why he was having a meltdown. He saw it missing and I was thinking, how am I going to do it? So the child is trying to communicate. Yes, he is trying to get away from it. But why is he doing it? It's not because he's a bad kid, but there are very, very good reasons behind it. Maybe he's learned that when I do this, then I usually get a biscuit before I do my work. Or when I do this, then I'm promised a chocolate if I do my work. What is it that happens when I try to, but then it becomes a want, not an avoidance. The kid has learned to ask for a chocolate by doing this. But usually when the child is trying to avoid something, there are very, very good reasons behind that not wanting to do that task. So remember, when the child is communicating, there is always a reason, and the reason is either wanting something or getting away from something, and both are very, very valid reasons that we have to figure out. The other thing, there is, like I said, there is always a reason. Let me see if there is anything on the PowerPoint that I've forgotten about. Sorry. Oh, shit. No, sorry. Oh God, I'll never learn. How do I do this? Oh, screen share.
Yeah, the share screen button.
Okay, so spectrum environment thing is we were talking about. Then how do I get to the next screen? Yeah, and then the next thing is catch the child being good. This is something that it's not just about the child, it's true of us. All of us none of us want to be only told what we are not doing right, what we are getting wrong. None of us like that. All of us thrive on a bit of praise, on a bit of being told that, it's good to see me, that I've done something well, that I'm good at something. And that's true for our children as well. And too often, we forget to catch the child being good. We remember to catch the child whenever they're doing something we don't want them to do. If they're playing with water too long, or they've taken something that they should not be taking, or have run off somewhere they should not be running to, or doing something we don't want them to do, we are really quick to pay them a lot of attention. But when the child is sitting quietly and doing some work, or in general, just being nice, we completely forget. There's something happening to my screen. That's weird.
I'm just trying to switch off the annotating access.
So, anyway, so what was I talking about? Yeah, catching the child being good. So it's very important to remember to catch the child when the child is doing stuff that we want the child to do, right? The other very important thing that we usually do not do is to acknowledge distress. acknowledge anxiety, acknowledge want. Acknowledge want, I just talked about. Like I said, when the child wanted some chips or something, I could say that, I know you want this. And of course, you will get it. You'll get it after lunch. But also, it is very important to acknowledge anxiety and distress, something that we don't do. We talk about the child being aggressive, the child having a meltdown, but all of that is a sign of some kind of a distress. It is a sign of anxiety, is a sign of the child feeling really, really, like anxious, right? And I can't think of other words, right? The first thing that we want to do is, instead of starting off by saying, now stop being angry, stop behaving like that. Isn't that what we really do? Like usually tell children when they're having a meltdown, stop doing that. I don't want you to do it. You do that, our mama's going to get very angry. I'm going to tell daddy about it, or I'm going to tell mama about it. First, let's acknowledge and say, I know you're feeling very bothered. I know something is bothering you. I don't know what it is, but let me see if I can do something about it. Whatever way you want to acknowledge, it all depends on the individual situation. But acknowledging the distress, acknowledging the anxiety that the child is feeling is very, very important. There are some young people who have expressed their anxiety over this entire lockdown and the COVID-19. And I was telling this parent, you can't tell the child, why are you feeling so bothered? It's nothing. You don't even want to say that. You want to acknowledge the child's anxiety and say that, yes, it is a difficult situation. It is a time when, people are falling sick and things are happening. But you know what? Nothing will happen to us because we are being very, very careful. So, you really don't have to worry because we will take all the care and precaution that is needed. It is very important to acknowledge the anxiety and distress that our children feel. Very often we just dismiss those things as, not really something that we need to bother with. But they are important things. They need to be bothered with. They have to be acknowledged. They have to be told. The other thing is that please don't make false promises. I've been appalled at the number of parents who said, "Acha, ye khatam hone do, we'll do this and we'll do that." Think to yourself and ask yourself, are you really going to do that? Do not make any promises that you're not going to keep, because believe me, your child may not bring it up, but he will remember. He may not be able to tell you that you said you will do this, but he will remember, and it will cause endless anxiety because he will not understand why you're not doing something that you had promised that you will do. The other thing is that do not threaten. If your child is doing something you don't want, don't threaten saying that, I will do this to you, I'll call the police and I will get the doctor to give you an injection. No matter what your child is doing, do not threaten. Threats do not ever help. Secondly, in some ways, I think the bigger negative about a threat is you make a threat which you don't keep, and then the child very soon learns that you say things that have no meaning. Right? And that is something that really undermines your authority, completely undermines your authority. That, making a threat and not keeping the threat is the worst thing that you can ever do. The other thing that, it's very, very important to keep in mind is that our kids will go into huge control situations. Most kids with autism have a really difficult time in getting their way. Some of us will say, no, my child always gets his way. Look at any typical child. By that I mean a child who is not autistic, anything but not autistic. That child will know how to get his way, right? If that child wants to, I'll give typical situations. If the child wants to have an extra sweet, that child will figure out how to get it out of, no, that's not a very good example. Let me think of a better example. Supposing the child wants to go, doesn't want to go to school because hasn't done his homework. Okay. Typical example, doesn't want to school because he has not done his homework and will get into trouble. What have you and I done in such situation? What have most of us done? We have lied through our teeth, pretended to have a stomachache, done all kinds of things and stayed home. Have we not done that, right? All of us who do not have autism, right from the time we are 3 and 4, we've learned how to lie our way out of situations, right? Kids with autism do not know how to do that. If I, as a neurotypical person, have got my way 1,000 times, the child with autism has got his or her way maybe 5 times. That is all. There's something very strange happening to my screen.
I know,
Is it happening to anybody else's?
I'm just trying to fix that, Mary. I don't know who's doing that. I'm just trying to.
I don't know. Anyway. It's gone? Okay. I got worried if it was a virus or something. Not coronavirus, but a computer virus. So anyway, I was joking. Anyway, so where was I? Right. So, our kids get into major control issues. And one of the things you never want to do, see, because they can't have their way, it's far worse for them. And by the time kids are about 9 or 10, this whole thing of adolescent assertion comes in, and our kids can't assert themselves. They have to eat what we tell them to do. They have to wear what we tell them to do. They have to go where we tell them to do. Very rarely are they able to assert themselves, right? And now with this entire lockdown, in many families, the kids are being forced to follow rules that where they feel that they have very little agency. And nobody feels good about not having agency. It's a very depressing thing. And that is why so many kids with autism end up with depression in their lives, right? So don't get into threats, false promises, and battles with your child. If you give them a day's schedule, if you make everything visual, you can make changes in that without having to get into a battle about, no, you will do this, no, you will not do that, etc., etc. And then, of course, the big thing of no punishment. And I know that punishment is considered a great thing in our country. Kids should be punished. If they're not punished, they will not learn. Believe me, kids learn far better without punishment. When we talk about punishment, you know what it is? It is not really helping the child learn something, because if kids learned with punishment, then after being punished once or twice, they would have stopped doing what we told them to do. That doesn't happen. We are constantly punishing them. We are doing the same thing over and over again, and the kid has still not learned. So punishment doesn't really help. All that punishment does is helps us take out a frustration on the child. That is what punishment is all about. Taking our frustration out on the child. Instead, if we can figure out what are the things that my child finds really, really reinforcing. And every time the child does something good, I catch the child being good. I either give them something that is really reinforcing for them, and that doesn't have to be food every time. That could be a hug. That could be a song. I could play and sing with my child. It could be a game. It could be something on television. It could be anything. It doesn't always have to be food, but it can be food also. That's okay too. But punishing the child in order to get them to change when they're having a meltdown or they're being aggressive, they're just trying to communicate something. And if you punish them, you're just adding to the frustration and the anxiety and not helping the child at all. And for all of those who swear by Skinner, you know what Skinner had said? Punishment is the tool of the weak teacher. If you're doing ABA, and I'm sure many of you are, don't forget that Skinner had said that this is something that no good teacher ever uses. So we don't want to use punishment to make the child do what we want them to do. It doesn't really help. Before I stop I'll say a few more things before I stop for questions. A few final thoughts. One, you don't have to keep the child occupied the whole day. That's something some parents are telling me. How can I keep him occupied the whole day? I said, you don't have to. Have a routine for the day and fill up a few things in between and have lots of, what I call relax. Do I have any here? No, I don't have it here. But I have things like this, or I have things like relax/help at home. So if there is something to help, the child helps. If there is not, he just relaxes, right? So it's not that you have to keep the child like madly busy at home, because many of us have a lot of housework to do now because we don't have any house help. So you don't have to keep the child occupied the entire day. If I goof up when I'm helping my child, that's okay. I'm only human. It does not matter. We will all goof up. And remember, every individual is unique. There will be some kids who will paint and cook and, make computer programs and all kinds of stuff. And there will be kids like my son, for instance, who will, yes, he will lay the table, he will clear the table, he will make his bed, he will do a few things. Beyond that, he hates housework with a passion. So getting him to do those things, he will fetch and carry, he'll bring the clothes, he will do all of that. But he will not sweep or swab, he will not do any of those, right? And we have to keep in mind that everybody is different. Just like I don't like doing everything, neither does the kid. So every individual is unique. Everybody is not going to be this amazing person who's going to do all kinds of stuff. But one of the things that the lockdown has done, in most developed countries, what happens is that everybody has to do their own work. The more developed the country is, you have to do your own housework. Unless if you're super, super rich, you're doing your own housework, right? And as a result, most kids with autism and developmental disabilities in more developed countries are very, very independent in day-to-day stuff. And most of our kids are complete bhodus. They can't get things out of the fridge. They can't do housework, because for us, we will get household help to do that, and they will only do academics. I think what the lockdown has done has made all of us get into teaching our children doing various household chores. Do not stop those chores once the lockdown is over. This is one of the best things that has happened to our kids, that they've learned to do household chores. I'm not saying this is true of every child, because some of them have been doing it from before, but it is true for a lot of them. So don't stop the household chores that they have been doing. Let them continue doing that, right? And stay safe and stay happy. And we will move to questions and discussion. I think I've kept, so you've got quite a bit of time.
Got a lot of questions, in fact.
So Sakhi, are you there?
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Mary?
I can't hear anyone, by the way.
Oh, is that so? 1 second.
Oh, sorry, I can hear now. Yeah.
Hi. Hello, can you hear me, Mary?
Yeah, sorry, my volume was down. I'm hopeless with all this. Yeah, tell me.
A lot of questions about Google augmented reality. In fact, people want you to.
Oh, okay. That's a real fun one. Okay. You know what? I'll just show it to you. Give me 1 minute. Let me get my moment. You just go to Google, right? And you put in any animal. Say I'm putting in lion. Lion. Or I'll put in tiger. Let me put down tiger. Tiger. So I've put tiger here, right? And I'll see there is one called Tiger 3D. Okay, so I've got Tiger 3D. Where is it? 1 second.
So this is an app you downloaded on your phone?
Yeah. Okay. There. Tiger 3D. Yeah. And I'm not getting the right one, sorry. But if you do that, what happens is that the animal comes on your, it's coming there. And you go to hold it in front of your house. Say if I do it in the room like this, it should come on. I'm not doing it properly. I don't know why. I was doing it all this time.
So what really does Google augmented reality facilitate?
Okay, what it does is, I'll show you what it does. You get it over here, and then it actually tells you wave it at your room, right? So you wave the mobile at your room, and then the animal is in the room with you. And I will show you, do I have pictures of the animal in the room? Yes, I have pictures of animal in the room. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Do you see the animal in my living room?
Yes.
So I have the tiger. I have some pictures with my son with the tiger. Right. So he was absolutely amazed. He was so delighted. So you get animals in your living room.
That's amazing.
Right. So it just pops in, whichever animal. Just go to Google and look at AR, 3D, and then it will tell you what to do.
Got it. Yeah. We have a very interesting question by Payal Ghosh. She says, what do you think is the primary role as well as the goal of the parents during this lockdown? What do you think their role should be? Should it be that of parents? Should it be that of...
Be a friend to your child. That's the first thing. Be a friend to your child. The reason why I'm saying this is because in India, when we think of parent, the accepted belief is, now I'm a parent. I have to be this very serious person with my child, right? No, you can be a parent and have fun with your child. You don't have to sit down and do academics every day. You don't have to sit down and you know what? Even when you're teaching him household chores, it doesn't have to be, now I'm going to teach you how to do this. It could be, listen, I'm going to make the bed, come and help me. And you help your child do it hand on hand and slowly fade off your prompt so that your child is able to do it himself. But the most important thing is have fun while you're doing it. Don't make anything into this, I have to do this now. Make it fun so that your child is enjoying it, because it is a stressful time for your child also. So make it as fun, structured. I cannot stress the importance of structure. Believe me, I would not have survived this lockdown if I did not have structure. There is no way, because we have all kinds of kids, right? And I know that without the structure, I would have been finished by, the first week. So structure is something that will really, really help you through the day. And how to do it, I'm sure most of you have a good idea. Can't go into too many details because that's a complete workshop on its own, right? But use structure through the day. Give a visual schedule to your child.
Regarding the timer, Smita Sharma has a question. She says, what if the child gets agitated when the timer rings as they connect that sound with giving back the iPad or giving back?
One of the biggest problems is that we get into this whole thing of what if. Just do it. Like parents got into this what if my child gets coronavirus? What if he gets a cold? What should I do? What if? Let's not get into the what if, just do it and see what happens. Believe me, your child will get so used to it and love it. Not because, of course, initially the first day he may not want to give it, right? Just take it away from him. Make it very clear to him that when it is done, he gives it away. But do it with, I talked about the tone of voice. Don't do it with anger in your face. Don't do it with frustration. Do it with great comfort. Just take it out of your hand. Say, you know what, time finished, and take it out of his hand and keep it by, right? And you do it 2 days, third day he knows that this is the time when I have to give it by. That's it.
Got it. Atiba, the third question is by Atiba. She says, I have a student with autism and the child was very upset initially that there's going to be no school. But now he started to say that I will not go to school anymore. And the parents are anxious with that gap. So they only feel that this emotion will become stronger. So how do you address this? And how do we talk about the good, what are the good things that you talk about in school and tell him that this is, do we tell him that it's just a summer break? How do we address it is her question.
See, first of all, he had trouble when this thing stopped because of the lack of preparedness. Kids with autism need predictability. That is their life. right? That is the anchor. Predictability is the anchor. And because that predictability was not there, because a sudden change happened, he had a lot of difficulty, right? For those who could have, it would have been a good idea to put it on the calendar, right? That's another great thing to use. Have everything on the calendar, right? So I even have things like when we are going to have, so my son loves bhajis, like in Bengal, you have a lot of this besan fritters that you eat with your rice. And I don't want to give it to him every day, but every day he wants it. So when that started, I simply put it on the calendar. These are the days for the bhaji, end of matter, right? So to this about the school thing, have a calendar. I know parents who've done calendars. Some of them sent me the calendars that they've made. And it's great. And some of them have marked the 14th or the 15th when it gets over. And also told the child, this is the last day, but it may carry on longer. And the government will give us 2 or 3 days notice, hopefully. And then mark it on the calendar again. Make it visual in 2 days. So that right now you can mark it on the calendar that we will start school. If you know, if the school is going to start on the 16th of April, you can put that. But honestly, I don't think it's going to start now. So it's a good idea to maybe put the start time whenever it starts after the summer holidays. I think most schools are not going to restart before the summer.
Yeah, I'd like to tie that up with Mithu Mishra's question. She says, how can we prepare a child for post-lockdown world? When there are lots to do, the government's going to ask us about, wearing a mask or social distancing or sanitizing your hands. How do you bring that into the daily routine? This is going to be the new normal.
Talk about it now that, people are wearing masks. Maybe when we go out, we will also have to wear masks. Practice wearing masks for a few days. Put it on your schedule one day. Today we will practice wearing masks. Just make it into a very, everyday matter of fact thing.
Mm-hmm.
The more we make things into, oh God, how are we going to do this? If you know that yeah, it's possible. The government might say wear mask. Make it into a fun thing that we're going to do. Make a few masks for your child where you have the mask and then you paint lips on it. If it's a boy child, you can paint a mustache on it. So it's a fun thing and you can wear it at home as practice.
Yeah. The next question is Chitra, Subramanyam and Aisha. They have similar questions about social distancing. They say that their child is very affectionate and wants to go and give hugs out or handshakes. So how do you stop that? And Chitra goes so far to say that a child gets anxiety when you tell him not to do it, and it results in very rebellious actions.
Okay, so here's the thing. I just talked about somewhere in the PowerPoint about acknowledging rather than telling the child what to do versus what not to do, right? So instead of telling the child, don't hug, right? Just say, oh, I know you want to hug, but let's shake hands. Or as soon as the child is coming towards you, practice right now because the child is at home, right? Practice right now. As soon as the child comes towards you, put your hand out and say, okay, let's shake hands. And slowly, okay, we can't shake hands when we go, right. We have to go to namaste. So the minute the child is coming towards you, just do this, namaste. Say, oh, we're going to do namaste. And don't say, we will not hug. Don't hug. Take away the negative for some time. Kids with autism, people with autism is the one population that hears about 5 times more negatives than any other population. Take away as many no's as you can. Why do you have to tell them don't hug? Just tell them what they can do. Say, oh, we're going to do namaste. Let's do namaste. Come on, chalo, do namaste. And that's it. And keep everything fun, light-hearted, matter of fact.
The next question that I have, a lot of mothers have in fact addressed, and quite a few teachers as well. They say how to get other family members to engage the kid, as mothers are having such a tough time managing all the chores. Yeah. And especially a lot of mothers, they have more than just one child. So yes. How do you engage other family members?
This is a really difficult one, which is why I said right at the beginning that, when you see things on Facebook, don't start thinking that, why is my child not doing this? Every child doesn't, and remember, that's the party. What you're seeing is the party. That's not, what everyday life is like. And for many mothers, they're having to do all the household. And, unfortunately, we know the reality is that there is a lot more domestic violence happening right now because mothers are not able to manage anymore. There's too much that they're having to do. And, here, every member of the house is home and nobody's helping out in any way. I don't know how to get, others may have some suggestion, how to get other members of the family to engage with the child. I really don't know in a situation like this. Because if other members of the family are seeing the mother overworked and not stepping in to help, would they really? So instead, if you could have some kind of a schedule, it'll take about, I know you're really stretched for time, but it'll take about 10 minutes of your time to just put something down that the child could do every day and put it on a schedule. The chances are that your child will be far easier to keep engaged without you constantly having to come in than without that. That is how the schedule helps also. It keeps, so you just point to the schedule and tell the child you're going to do this. Though I know that if the child has never used the schedule and does not know what it is, it will be a difficult time to start. And I really don't know if I have any answer on how to get other members engaged, really. And I just feel very sad really, for families where they don't want to engage with the kid or want to help in housework when the mothers are so overburdened with everything. And most mothers are actually.
There are a lot of questions about, I don't have Velcro right now. I don't have this right now. I don't have that right now. So
you don't need Velcro. That's the first thing I said. You do not use Velcro. You just need this. You need a stiff piece of paper and this, and if you have, what's it called? Gem plates.
There's one question that's really off topic, but I think it's super important to address. Sanjeev Kumar Singh says, does camel milk really work on autism? And my patient is doing so. So I know this, just for the sake of awareness, I want you to really shout this out loud.
Okay, if camel milk was really the cure, you know what? There are these two Firangis who've come to India and made a huge business of camel milk. It has been started by these two white women. And if you're white, then everybody will do what you tell them to do. If I tell you, nobody will listen. But if my skin suddenly, if I became Caucasian tomorrow, everybody will listen to what I'm saying. If camel milk cured autism, people in Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, and various other countries where they drink camel milk would not have autism. Why do they have kids with autism? They're all drinking camel milk. I went and drank camel milk there, right? So it does nothing. It's just another business proposition that somebody has and is making a lot of money out of.
Yeah, thank you so much. There's Sharmila Dasgupta who says what are the therapies that we should continue at home? Occupational therapy, speech therapy during the lockdown period. Do you have any suggestions on essential therapies that need more focus?
See, the best speech therapy that you can do for your child, unless if your child has oromotor difficulties. If he has oromotor difficulties, then you have him do blowing activities, put straw in a thing of soap and get him to blow into that, make him drink things with a straw, give him massage around here, put honey here, let him lick it off, all the usual oromotor exercises. But other than that, if the child is having difficulty, doesn't have oromotor difficulties, the best speech therapy you can do is focus on how you're communicating with your child. Make sure that if you're giving an instruction, follow through, right? What do I mean by that? If I tell my child, go shut the door, and he does not shut it, and I let it be, what has the child learned? He's learned go shut the door means I can continue playing with my mobile. But if I say go shut the door and he does not, but then I get up, I make him get up, take him to the door, say shut the door, and I make him shut it, he learns that shut the door means this. If I say give me the pen and he doesn't give it to me, and I let it drop and I go and get the pen myself, he's learned give me the pen means I do what I want. But if I say, give me the pen and he doesn't give it to me, I take him hand on hand, make him pick up the pen and come and put it into my hand. He learns, give me the pen means this. If he doesn't say it, And I tell him sit, and he doesn't sit and he's running around. I say, oh, come and sit. Why don't you sit? He hasn't learned anything. But if I say sit and he's been standing, and if I say sit and he's not sat, I just come up and say sit, and I give him a push and I make him sit. He's learned. If I do it every time, he knows that sit means my bottom touching the seat. Communication is something that does not happen in a therapy class. Communication is something that happens through the day in the way I'm speaking. If I say, go and keep this pen there, I haven't taught him anything, because there are a million there's there. And for the child with autism, there's huge confusion between here and there. If I say, go and keep this pen on top of that computer, I have helped him with communication. So there are a whole ton of things like this that we could do, right? And basically, you would be working on communication when you're doing this. If you're helping your child dress, talk about what the child is doing. Talk about what you're doing. Put your right arm through the t-shirt. Put your left arm. Come on, let's put your left arm. Put your right foot in the shoe. Communication is a continuous process, right? And similarly with, occupational therapy, one, of course, that oromotor thing that I talked about, that's more about speech therapy. But, if you know that your child is constantly he likes to sit under a table, he likes to get under heavy things, give him pressure through the day. If he's constantly biting himself, then not when he's biting himself, but at other times when he's not biting himself, give him a nice massage where he bites himself. So, there are all these messages that the child will give you through the day about what his sensory needs are. And you can work on that. If the child has difficulty in, moving their hands and walking, if they have difficulty in their cross motor thing, make them do cross motor activities, turn over and with your right foot touch your left leg, a right hand touch your left foot, with your left hand touch your right foot, make them do cross body activities, make them draw a line on the floor, make them walk, one foot in front of the other on it. These are the things, and they're fun. They're not work, they're fun things that you can do, right? Keep katoris in the room, like this, so that the child has to walk through the katoris like this, in and out, right? So there are all kinds of activities that you can do that are just fun things, and that works as occupational therapy also.
Right, and I'll even like to let the participants of this webinar know that we just recently had a webinar with Dr. Roshan Deepaka, an occupational therapist, and he taught a lot of interesting OT home strategies. So we'll have that video available on YouTube sometime soon. So just stay tuned to the social media pages as well. There's a lot of questions about predictability. So there's Shweta Singh who says that she's been stuck here in India and her home is in Dubai, and her child is in Dubai with her husband. And it's quite an unpredictable scenario that we are in right now. So how do you ease the child's anxiety, give him some sort of prediction, or what's the way that you move forward with this?
Well, I think one is, of course, for whoever the child is with, to tell the child that, mama will be coming back, right? She's not gone forever, but, it's for a short while. And maybe have predictable times for video calls with the child, right? Have clear, predictable times so that the child knows, okay, at this time, I know I'll be able to see my mama. That itself will assuage a lot of the anxiety that the child is having.
There's Dr. Khushbu Srivastav who asks, is it okay to leave one random day in between without a structure? Just a little break for both the mother and the son. Are you in favor of that?
Okay, first of all, it's not the break for the child. The child thrives on the structure. You're not giving the child a break. But if you feel that you want to have a break, that's different. But it's not a break for the child. The kid with autism thrives on structure. And what happens when you give structure is, somebody had asked a question that what happens when the lockdown gets over? If we give them a very predictable, structured time through the lockdown, the anxiety levels will go completely down. So when after the lockdown, there are unpredictable things happening, they will be better able to deal with it. Get it? It's like if I'm already very stressed and anxious, if something unpredictable happens, I'll just lose it. But if I'm, okay, comfortable and something unpredictable happens, I'll be able to deal with it. So the more predictability we give, the better we help them deal with unpredictable situations, which will be there in life. Life has unpredictable situations. So the more predictability we give in life, it's true of us. We forget that if our lives, supposing, Sakhi, you went to work, you have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow, right? Today your boss tells you do this, the next day he says something else, next day he makes you run somewhere else. You have no idea what you're going to do once you get to work. Won't it drive you crazy, right? And then one more thing after that will be just the last straw. Whereas if you have a predictable routine when you go to work, within which there are changes, you're able to deal with those changes because you have the overall predictability in your life. It's true for all of us.
I think this answer, in fact, even answers Sangeeta Basu's question. She says her child, he has an issue with his behavior for the past 1 week. He's getting irritated at the smallest thing.
Yeah, of course.
And loves to go to school, play around with his friends and teachers, follow routine. And his agitation due to this is coming out of head swaying, loud blabbering, and refusing to cooperate or do anything. So we're at a fix, and hence your valuable suggestions are welcome. So I think you pretty much answered that, the whole idea of predictability.
Right.
I think we have reached the end of all the questions that are there today. A lot of people are asking for more workshops and webinars on this. Just a few closing dialogues, if you would please, Mary, for this lockdown period and what you recommend most to parents and professionals.
Okay, see, again, the same thing that I said earlier. One, structure. And because, like I swear by structure. And I repeatedly say this because a lot of people often say, how can you give structure? Why should we give structure? Right? We forget that we have structure in our own lives, right? And also, even if we did not, when people say, why should we give structure? It's like saying, and people say, how long should we continue to give structure? It's like saying, why should we give Mary these glasses? How long is she going to wear them? I'm going to wear them till the ruddy day I die. It's like telling somebody who's on a wheelchair, how long do you think you're going to be on a wheelchair? Why don't you get up and start walking now? And we do that with people with autism. We say, oh, we've done structure for a long time, now you manage without structure. But it's like the prosthesis for the person with autism, right? Some of them are able to start making their own structure later in life, right? And they make their own. But if we don't, and I was telling somebody, I wrote this sentence down. There's this young man, very, very capable young man who told me that I wrote it down somewhere, what he said, so that I won't forget. I feel that something about, he's a very able guy. And because of the lockdown, he's at home the whole time and he's doing stuff through the day. But he said that I feel that my time is disappearing into a vacuum. And I told him, you know what, I'll give you a visual structure. So I sent him on my WhatsApp a list of things he does through the day and added a few more things. And I said, just look at this every day. And the amount of difference that has made to him. And I'm talking about a very able young man, right? So structure is the prosthesis that people with autism use. That's one. Number two, yes, the coronavirus is a difficult thing. For those of us who have doctors in the family, yes, it is very worrying because they are going out and many of them are getting affected. And I really don't know what else to say because many of them don't have the proper suits and stuff that they need. But for those of us who don't have doctors in our family, we are safe. There is nothing that's going to happen to us, right? Why are we so worried? All we have to do is stay home. That's it. Stay home, make it an easy time for everybody. And of course, I know that many of us also have very, very difficult family members that we deal with. That's something that I really don't know what to do about, other than asking everybody to become better human beings and help everybody at home. But I just hope that all of us, stay home and stay safe, and the whole thing ends soon.
Thank you so much for being here with us today, Mary. it's been a great experience. I'm getting a lot of messages from parents right now saying this your to quote one in fact says your words are liquid gold. So thanks so much. I am to all the participants. I'm attaching the social media handles of Action for Autism and India Autism Center. Please do like, share, subscribe.
Okay, sure.
And please stay tuned to our Facebook page because we have lots of exciting webinars coming up. I might email Mary and pester her to get us another webinar soon. So thanks again for being a part. I will end the meeting now and I'm sharing all the links right now on the chat box.
Thank you to all the participants.
We can't hear them, but you know what? I'll unmute them all.
Thank you very much.
Nice presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ma'am.
Very much, ma'am.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.